All right, hello Elizabeth. It's
Hello.
good to see you again.
Thank you.
As you remember, my name is Lieutenant Hodges. Just before we begin, could I get your name and date of birth?
Yeah, it's Elizabeth Byland, 7/9/1992.
Okay, great. Thank you. It's good to be with you again. After our last visit, I worked with you. We completed the VEX depression inventory, and so you remember those are all the questions asking about some of the, I guess, like feelings and experiences that you've been having lately. And so I took a look through some of those results and noticed a few, I guess, key areas that we can focus on within occupational therapy, because as I mentioned in our last session, my goal is to help you to accomplish your goals and do the things that are important to you. And so some things that I noticed, and you can tell me if this seems accurate or if this seems, I guess, true to what your experience has been, is that you have been experiencing some difficulties related to sleep, some difficulties just like overall with your routine. School's been pretty busy and you feel like you don't really have much time for yourself. And then lastly, just like emotional regulation has been difficult. You feel like there are instances where you wish that you could control your emotions a little bit better. Does that sound accurate to you?
Yeah, I just feel really tore up about my relationship, and if I can be honest with you, I think I just think about it a lot, and like my sadness is what's keeping me from being able to sleep. And I just keep thinking about it, and I will end up crying, and the crying keeps me awake at night. And it takes so much of my time, and having a hard time expressing what I feel.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I mentioned with my goal as your occupational therapist, I am hoping that you can return to do some of the things that you set out to do, like law school. I know is a big part of your life right now, and a big part of your goals.
I would like to.
Yeah, I'd like to get back to it. And so we have 2 weeks that you're going to be here in this program, and so I'm going to be meeting with you about 3 times each week. So we have about 6 visits total that we're going to have. And so I would just like to, I guess, say that during those visits, we're gonna focus on those areas that you identified, and that we can help to improve your ability to reach your goals. And so this is going to be much like anything really, where what you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. And so what we're going to do today is sort of 3 sample activities of things that we're going to do in our future sessions, just so you can get an idea of what we're going to be doing in occupational therapy, and also some of the ways that we're going to target your specific goals that you have.
Okay.
And so today I have 3 activities that we're going to go through. One is focused on each of your goals, and so as we go through these activities, just be open, be willing to share some of those experiences that you're having, and I can
do that.
Great. So the first activity is going to be focused on how you spend your time.
Okay.
And so I know with school being pretty overwhelming, I know you mentioned that last time, it maybe feels like you don't have a lot of freedom in your time. And so with that, we're going to do an activity where we have 2 circles here, and right now I want you to sort of make a pie chart. Are you familiar with a pie chart?
No.
Great, yeah. I'm sure you look at them in all your school and research and stuff. And so I want you to make a pie chart based on the amount of time per day that you spend doing certain activities. And so maybe if you feel like you spend a few hours doing schoolwork, I want you to make the chunk of time like reflecting that.
Okay.
And then after we do what your current school or your current time is like, we're going to fill out what your ideal time would look like. And then we can talk about some ways that we can make your current look a little bit more like your ideal. And
Okay.
so, yeah, if you'll take your pencil there, I'll have you start that. And I'm just going to keep talking as you fill that out because within all of the visits that we have for occupational therapy, we're going to focus on individualizing the activities to you. And so sometimes that means that we need to make activities a little bit more difficult, and sometimes we need to make them a little bit easier. And so one of the ways that we can make this activity a little more difficult would be to include more categories. So maybe having more spaces for different things. And then also just like talking about more complex reasons for why the activities take as much time as they do. And then to make the activity easier, we would include fewer categories, maybe have 4 different categories or something like that. And then another way that we can make it easier if you're having a difficult time would be to focus on, or it would be for me to draw it and then you sort of reflecting on and seeing if that is accurate. So I see that you've
I think
completed
this
the current.
is kind of not the best size of things, but
And that's okay.
I think currently what I spend a lot of my time is thinking of the breakup and then crying. And then school's kind of small right now because I haven't been able to focus on like schoolwork, and then I do talk to my family, but not as much as I would like. And then I still put some eating and
Yeah, I see
sleep,
that.
and then some TV watching in there, which sometimes the TV show just I'm watching that, it makes me even more sad.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So I see this is sort of the current reality that you have. If things were going perfectly for you, how would your ideal schedule look like, or how would your ideal pie chart look like?
So ideally, school and study would take up more, and sleep would take up more. Family time would take up more. Eating would be about the same. And then I added a category of friends and outings, or outings with friends.
Okay.
And really, I don't want to be thinking of the breakup and crying, so I took those 2 out completely.
Yeah, and it looks like those, like the friends and outing is about the size of the thinking of the breakup and crying. Like they're pretty similar in size. So that's, thank you for filling that out. And in our future sessions, we can talk a little bit more about how we can, I guess, maximize or best use your time. Some things we'll do in the future include like going over scheduling and coming up with a plan for making sure that you have time for friends and outings, because taking time for yourself is important, and we hope that you're able to be set up with some of those tools before you leave this program, so that you can take those tools and use them in your future.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
great.
that'd be nice.
So the second activity that we're going to complete is a daily sleep diary. And so one area that you mentioned and that we talked about earlier and that we have for your goals is to improve your sleep quality and quantity. I know that you mentioned that you're having a hard time falling asleep and staying asleep. So you go to bed a lot later than you expect, and then you wake up earlier. And so today what we're going to do is just have you fill out your sleep diary from yesterday. We're just gonna use yesterday as an example. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm not too concerned about the exact number of minutes or hours, I guess. But just give it your best shot here. What I think that we're most focused on are the quality that you're going to write there. So, and again, as we have future occupational therapy sessions, we can teach certain skills. There are a lot of skills out there, including like not going on your phone right before bed or doing something relaxing before you try to go to bed. So I'll have you start filling that out, and then much like in the last activity, I'll talk about some ways that we could make this activity more or less difficult. And so to make this activity a little bit more difficult, we could have you create a poster talking about sleep hygiene. So maybe some of the things that you already know or are aware of. And then we could also have you teach we have some group classes that talk about sleep. And so we could have you teach part of that class as well.
Okay.
To make this activity easier, we could just focus on one specific aspect of sleep hygiene rather than focusing on a lot, because there are a lot of things. And then another thing that could make this activity easier is wearing a smart watch or some kind of other wearable device that tracks your sleep, so then you don't even have to think about the time.
Okay.
So great. So I see that you've completed this here. That's great. Thank you for doing that. So I want to have you reflect a little bit on what are some things that are helping you in your sleep, and then some things that are not helping you or that are hurting your ability to sleep. So just think about that and maybe write a couple of those down as well.
Yeah, I don't really have a whole lot of positive things that are currently helping, but
And that's okay.
I mean, at least it's dark in my room here,
Mhm.
so that's good.
Okay.
I like dark rooms to sleep.
That's a good thing to identify, because we can take that home with you as well. So we're going to talk through this page here. So it looks like your wake up time was at about 8 a.m.
Yeah, that's what time they wake us up.
And you did not take any naps yesterday,
No.
and your bedtime was about 1 a.m.
Yeah, they have us go to bed at 10 p.m., but I can't fall asleep. So usually I don't put my phone down until about 1 a.m. Then because then it's like, oh, it's 1 a.m. I need to put my phone down. So then I finally put it down, and honestly, it still probably takes me maybe another hour or so to fall asleep. I'm not exactly sure, but it feels like I lay there and toss and turn for a really long time.
Okay. Well, and that's one of the sleep classes that we have. Actually, it is on Thursday of this week. It is all about sleep hygiene, which is, I don't know, we think about our like personal hygiene, like getting dressed and showering, shaving. They're sort of little things that we do to like maintain or improve our overall like appearance and health. So there are things that we can do for sleep that we call them sleep hygiene tips, and so one of them is about technology. So I would advise maybe trying to put your phone down a little bit earlier in the night. And in the sleep hygiene class, we'll talk a little bit more about why that's important and how that can help you to sleep more deeply. Okay. But that's very helpful. And so as we track your daily sleep, we can notice some trends that we see, maybe some things that we can work on. And so it looks like your sleep quality was a 3 out of 10. And so why would you rate it at a 3 out of 10?
It's just not very good. Like I said, I toss and turn a lot. I find myself waking up sometimes in the middle of the night as well.
Okay. And so looking at the positives, you already mentioned that you have a dark room. That is another part of the sleep hygiene. So maybe even not on purpose, you found that out, that's something that you appreciate, which is that's great, because sometimes we just try different things, and some of them are really helpful for us and some of them are a little less helpful. And so again, with this program, we're going to just give you a lot of information, and you can take what is important to you. We don't necessarily expect you to take everything that we teach and use it all to a T, because that's a lot to keep track of. And so if you can just focus on a couple things, that's great. So it looks like the negatives include being on your phone, which we talked about a little bit, some of the thoughts, and we're going to have some classes about our thoughts as well, so we'll talk about that in a minute. And then not being in your own bed, which that's totally understandable. That's a difficult one. So great. So this is sort of just a sample of what we would do to target your sleep. And so there are plenty of other resources and worksheets and things that we can focus on in the future with that. So the third sample activity that we have here, we're going to talk about the stop skill. And so this is a part of what is called DBT. And so this is a form of therapy that focuses on like mindfulness, focusing on like being able to tolerate different or navigate different difficult situations, and then also just like focusing on your emotional regulation. And so emotional regulation was the third goal that you had. And so what we're going to do today is just focus on one small skill, and this is something that you can use at really any time. And so this is just something to keep in mind here. And so it's the acronym is STOP for this specific skill. And so the first part of STOP is to stop. So that's kind of a helpful one. So it's stop, and then the next step is to take a step back. Okay. So stop, take a step back, and then observe is the third one, and then proceed mindfully is the fourth one. And so we're going to go through a couple like practice scenarios with this, and then hopefully this can be something that you can, in a difficult situation, think of and use it to help regulate your emotions or help you to feel like you're in more control of some of the things you're feeling. Because it can be difficult when things happen and you kind of feel out of control. I know that was something that you mentioned within your assessment last time. So let's go through the first scenario together. It'll be just a really basic scenario. So let's pretend that you are in line at a coffee shop, and somebody just like rudely cuts in front of you, and they order 10 coffees, and so it just takes a long time. So this can be like an emotionally disruptive situation. It can be kind of upsetting if something like that happens. Let's talk through these 4 steps and see what we could do in that situation. So stop, that's kind of, I guess, implied within the name, but you can just not immediately react. Maybe your reaction would be to say something or to feel like you just were wronged really largely, but it's important to remember that you are the boss of your own emotions. And so in that scenario, you cannot push them or say something rude, not saying that that's something that you would do, but this is just an example.
Yeah.
And so the next one would be to take a step back. And so maybe this can be sort of a keeping things in perspective situation where you can realize, hey, maybe this person that just cut in line it's their first week at work, and their boss just demanded 10 coffees for the meeting and they're late or something. Maybe that can be part of taking a step back, is thinking about what is going to happen. And so then that kind of ties in as well to the observing, that you can maybe look at what is happening and kind of identify. Maybe they look like they're really frazzled as well, or like they're going through a difficult situation.
Yeah, they could be a rush or something. They could happen to get 10 coffees. They're probably like doing it for work or something. Yeah, they just, who knows why they would.
And then the last step can be to proceed mindfully. And so you can ask yourself, what do you want to do, or what can you do in this situation? So that was, again, like a very basic, almost kind of silly example, but let's talk about an example that might be a little bit more, I guess, realistic to you. Can you think of a difficult situation that you had recently that you can talk about or something?
So like when I wake up on a Sunday feeling overwhelmed about school, and I just think about failing an upcoming exam for law school.
Okay, so maybe just like a feeling that you have when you wake up first thing in the morning, and you kind of feel like
it makes me not
you're
want to
gonna
get out
fail
of
an
bed
exam.
or anything sometimes. I just don't have the motivation to get up when that's all I can think about, like failing an exam, because I just feel like a failure for not even keeping my relationship.
Yeah, that is definitely something that I can see why or how that could happen. But let's talk through these 4 steps and see maybe how we can emotionally regulate a little better, keep control of our emotions. So before you're feeling, or as you're starting to feel overwhelmed, how can you maybe stop and take a step back?
Well, I should probably just stop and not, maybe stop that thought so I don't cry, because it would make me cry more. So maybe I should just stop that thought first thing in the morning. And then I could take a step back and look at the real circumstances of it, because I currently have a B+ in the class. So if I didn't do so well, I would still probably pass the class overall. I may not be happy with my grade, but it wouldn't necessarily mean I'm a failure. And then I could really observe the situation of it not being one test define my life if I failed that exam. And then proceed mindfully. What as a therapist, what do you kind of recommend?
What do I think?
Yeah.
I think that one thing that helps me is to just focus on what you can control. That can be a part of proceeding.
Yeah. So maybe I could instead of just laying in bed thinking about how I am going to fail, then I could pull up my notes and review my notes, or maybe use some of these strategies that you have taught me to just think about managing those emotions.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great way to proceed. And so, again, this is just a simple, like, basic skill that can kind of help you to take a step back. One thing that I just want to focus on that you said was that you want to stop the emotion, or like stop feeling the emotion. That I want to be careful with that, because emotions are an important part of us, and I don't want you to feel like you have to just like push them down and kind of forget about them.
No, yeah, I think that's good. Thank you. Yeah.
So I want to be careful with how you, I guess, stop with something like that. But I think it's good to recognize it and name the emotion. Maybe instead of just like, oh, I'm not allowed to feel that, say something like, what am I feeling exactly? Name it. I'm feeling overwhelmed in this situation, and then think, okay, how can I proceed here? Is by maybe just getting started with school, or instead of just laying here thinking about it, maybe just starting some of that studying. So
that makes a lot of sense. That's good.
Great. So these were three basic activities. Were there any of them that were your favorite out of today?
I think the sleep diary, I think that's something that's going to help me a lot.
Great, yeah, and I look forward to some of those future group classes that we have.
Yeah, I think they'll be helpful.
But that's very good. Are there any questions that you have before we're going to be meeting together again tomorrow?
No, I think I'm okay. I'm looking forward to that class you mentioned for the sleep schedule.
Okay, great.
I feel pretty good.
Well, yeah, again, our goal, we have a limited amount of time with you here. We just want to set you up for success so you can reach your goals. And I'm glad that you let me spend some time with you today. So thank you.
Thank you for your time. Yeah.
Yep. Have a great day.
Thanks.